Welcome to the LinkedIn Lead Generation Summit. I'm host and creator Kate Hall-Lacey, and today we are delighted to be talking with Kate Payne. Now, Kate helps executives and entrepreneurs stand out online so they can become a recognized authority in their marketplace and a respected asset to their company and clients. She uses her journalism and marketing skills to tease out her clients' compelling story and position them as an expert or thought leader both online and off. She's a LinkedIn expert and uses the tool as a powerful personal branding platform. And Kate also speaks at national marketing conferences about social media and teaches LinkedIn for corporate sales. And today she's going to be sharing how to use personal branding and put a nugget of your personal story in your profile to really hook people. And we're going to talk a bit about how she does her amazing LinkedIn lives, which we're going to do one together, and I can't wait. A bit nervous.
We are.
Woohoo. Cool, Kate. Well, lovely to have you on. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. And thanks for inviting me. I'm really excited to be a part of this. This is going to be great.
Thank you. So let's jump in. You are a branding expert and you really believe in getting a nugget of people's personal story and helping them to stand out with that. And of course, with your journalism background, that really plays in well to help people find that. So how do we, as kind of non-journalists, really kind of choose that best part of our story, and where do we put it on LinkedIn?
Okay.
At least?
So when I work with people on their personal story, and I probably should just say that, storytelling is like a marketing buzzword that everybody hears, like brand story, storytelling. And so when I talk about story, I'm talking about like you said, a nugget of your personal story. I also refer to it as like your slice of life story. So for example, when I work with clients on this is, first of all, we kind of examine like their personal brand, like what's your positioning? What do you stand for? What's your industry expertise? So you sort of need to know your brand first. You need to kind of understand what personal brand is. And, it's your personal brand is essentially your reputation. It's your integrity, it's your values, it's certainly your professional expertise in your niche, in your industry. But so when people think about their personal brand, they know what they stand for. They know what their unique value proposition is. But when they write about it, whether it's like on the about page of their website or in their LinkedIn profile, they tend to kind of talk about themselves sometimes in what I call somewhat of a more of a formulaic way. It's sort of like bio-like I did this and I did that and I 20 years of experience or this or that. And so what I like people to do to help them stand out is to use a nugget of their story in the very beginning of their about section on their LinkedIn personal profile page. Right. And I've got a couple examples I can show you too. I'll share my screen and show a couple examples.
Sounds awesome.
So in doing that and thinking about like your nugget of your story, sometimes when I work with people, they're like, well, I don't want my whole about section to be about like my story. And I'm only talking about like a portion. So think about like when you read a blog and you're skimming through or something, you want the person that's writing it, you want them to like hook you in right away. Yeah. You want those first couple lines, to really captivate your attention. And so I'm pulling from my journalism background and doing that. So you want to have like a good lead, a good introduction. When you go to someone's personal profile page on LinkedIn and you look at their about, the only first 2 or 3 lines show. And then there's a link that clicks, you're supposed to click to show more to see the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So you want that, like you want to hook your reader in. Yeah. So if you're okay, Kate, I'll share my screen and I can show a couple examples.
Love our viewers to see that. Let's have a look.
Okay. So bear with me for just a second while I get there. Okay. So let me go to full screen. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So again, just about the personal brand piece. One of the things is like, I said, your brand is your reputation, but you need to understand what it is so that you can talk about yourself with your professional expertise in mind. And sometimes when people are like, well, I kind of can do it all, or I can do it, or I can work with everybody. That's like not your brand. And so not having that defined for yourself becomes your brand. And then you don't want that to happen. Okay. So, these are some ways that that your personal brand comes out. And these are the kinds of things that you can be putting out, on LinkedIn, serving others, what are your goals? How do you provide benefit to your network? How do you position yourself in your industry? This is kind of a good visual for you to figure out, what your brand is. And then when you consider what your brand is, and you want to be authentic, if you add that little piece of personal story, like I mentioned, it's what makes your personal brand sort of stand out and your about section stand out and make you be different among your peers, like on LinkedIn. Okay, so people are going to get hooked into wanting to read more about you and then hopefully want to reach out and get in touch with you. So let me get to the story piece, and let me just get to that. So I love this slide because this is a great visual to have in your brain when you're thinking about your story, that your story is your greatest asset. It's the differentiator. It's the piece that sets you apart. So here are 10 ideas of ways to identify your story. The one that people use the most is usually like why you chose your career path. So you could like start with a little nugget, and I'll show you a couple real world examples here in a minute. Maybe it's a memorable experience earlier in life, some kind of self-discovery. Maybe you transitioned from one industry to another. Maybe you served in the military at some point, and that was something that made you decide like why you wanted to go into what you do now. So these are just some ideas, and I just want to be clear, you don't use all 10 of these. This is just to give you like get your creative juices flowing.
Yeah.
And you could just pick one, and then you play it out in a paragraph or two at the most, short paragraphs. So here's a couple samples. This is a gentleman that I've worked with. He actually was an executive at ESPN for years, and he's actually the guy that started sports streaming digital on TV. Like this was his thing. So if you look at his about, he starts out with saying, imagine your dream career. You're a 10-year-old kid in New York City during the 70s and daydreaming about a service that can combine TV, etc. So it's hooking your reader in right off the bat. And he's sharing a little bit of his story, where he ended up with CBS and NBC and stuff. And he basically says, that's my story. I've always been energized about the intersection of sports, media, and technology. And then he segues into his professional side.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you see how that works?
Yes.
And here's another one. This is a woman who is a family law attorney, lawyer. Do you call them solicitors in Australia? I know they do in England.
Yes, lawyers, solicitors.
Yeah, lawyers, attorneys. So, so she actually is a pioneer, especially in the United States, nationally, in what's called collaborative family law. So for people who are going through a divorce, that can be really hostile. She's writing a book right now about how people can come together in a divorce situation and not have it be hostile and not have it hurt the kids. So she wanted to come across in her positioning as being like, she was the voice for like, people who didn't have one. And so her story was like starting out with just this little nugget. Growing up on the playgrounds of Detroit, I advocated against child abuse in 4th grade when I discovered my friend's mother would extinguish her cigarettes on her daughter's fingers. But then she goes into the whole rest. This is just a snapshot of her profile. She goes into the rest of who she works with and why, and how she wants to help people who don't have their own voice. And so she can be that voice for them. And then this is one of my favorites. This is a guy who's a CEO of a renewable energy company, mostly solar. And he starts out like, this is his little story nugget. I've been an energy guy my entire life. I built my first wind turbine at the age of 14 with bicycle parts and a light bulb to generate electricity for my maple sugar house. When it worked, I was hooked. And then he kind of segues into the professional side. So, so those are just a couple little, quick sort of real world examples of what story can look like. And I have like these 3 elements you can have in your about section. So you start out with your story nugget, so that's like the who you are part. And then you transition into the second part, which is who you help. So what problems do you solve? What's the pain points of the people that you work with? And then you name them. And then the third piece, which is the conclusion of the about, is how you use like one of your superpowers to solve that problem, so that you're creating a profile or an about section that's outcome based versus just bio-like.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good structure. I like those. Excellent.
Yeah. So personal story is just a way to be able to really make yourself stand out, because if people are doing research and they're looking into considering you to hire you for their need, they're Googling your name, they're Googling your company, they're looking on LinkedIn. And if they get to yours and it's just got a different approach and a different style, then you're going to be, positioning yourself on LinkedIn over your competition.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Very interesting, Kate. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you've given us some great ideas about how to hook people with our own personal stories and use that nugget. And then I love it how you then go into the pain points of the customer and talk a bit about them, which is so important.
So
And
important.
the transformation and how you bring them that transformation and your special superpower for doing that. So very, very good points there. Now, you are known throughout LinkedIn as doing fantastic LinkedIn lives. So Vivica told me about you and she said, oh my God, you've got to speak to Kate about her LinkedIn lives. They are so professional and so fantastic. And I know that you've got some great tips to give people also on how to market it. So I'd love to hear a little bit about LinkedIn Live.
Okay, great. Well, first and foremost, people need to know, and I think most people do by now, you have to apply to get LinkedIn Live. So like if you have Facebook and you want to do a Facebook Live, anybody can hop on and do a live. You can't on LinkedIn yet. And technically in LinkedIn's, corporate LinkedIn, they're still sort of in beta with LinkedIn Live, and that's why they haven't rolled it out to everybody. So if you go into LinkedIn and you go into their help, just Google LinkedIn Live application or apply, and it'll take you to the page where there's a link that you can send in a bunch of information for them to consider you to be able to get LinkedIn Live. So that's very important to know off the top. Once you get it, and by the way, it took me 9 months and 5 applications to finally get it.
Really? That's extraordinary.
Yeah. And Vivica, who is like known as the LinkedIn expert, it took her over a year to get approved. So there's no rhyme or reason to how they vet this. I don't know.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. That's very interesting.
I mean, when I got it, it was like I'd won the lottery. I was like, oh my God. So anyway, when you get it though, it is a use it or lose it. If you don't use it over a period of time, LinkedIn will take it away. So what they want you to do, what LinkedIn suggests, is that you try to do a LinkedIn Live like once a week or at least a couple times a month.
Yeah.
So when I got it, I had actually started doing this little show, this little webcast on Zoom where I would interview experts. And I called it Coffee with Kate because I was trying to give it like a kind of a cool little name. And what I did actually is I made these mugs. And then what I do is I send the mug to the person I'm going to interview, and then they have the mug, and then we both kind of have the mug. It's kind of a shtick thing, but it's kind of like making it real.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. So what I do is I interview industry experts who are sort of like in the marketing world or digital marketing world. I should get you on, and I think we are. We're going to have one coming up, right?
Wow, my first LinkedIn Live. Woo, woo.
Woohoo! So what I do is I do it just like you're doing here. I'm doing it like an interview format. And then, but when you do LinkedIn Live, just to give you a little bit more information, you do have to use a third-party app to be able to broadcast on it. So there's StreamYard is one of them. And there's a couple others. And I think you can even maybe use YouTube. I'm not sure. They're constantly evolving and changing how this works. So you have to apply for one of these third-party apps to actually do the LinkedIn Live and make it go to your channel. So that's all. You can figure all that out. LinkedIn explains it all to you. And I use StreamYard. Vivica uses StreamYard. StreamYard's one of the best.
Is it easy enough for the guests to get on StreamYard as well? Like, does it take much and take, to download and all the rest of it?
Yeah, it's super easy. And the other thing you can do too is like if you wanted to have people like in a hot seat or a guest seat, you could give them the link and you can bring up to like 6 or 10 people into your studio.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is fun. So like if somebody was watching your live and had a question, they could log into the link and come, and I could bring them into the studio, and then they could be on camera and we could have a conversation. So that's kind of a nice little element to the LinkedIn Live piece.
Love it.
So once you do all that, then what you want to do is you want to promote it. So I create like a graphic in Canva and I put it out like a week before the live saying I'm going to be interviewing Kate on this day and time. And then there's a really cool thing you can do by setting up an event in LinkedIn, and you can actually invite people so that they're aware of the event in advance. And then basically all they do is they log into LinkedIn, and there'll be a notification saying Kate Payne is live on LinkedIn, and then you just click on it and you can watch.
Brilliant.
I can show you where that is.
Yeah, show us, because it's really good to get a visual.
Yes, it is. All right, so hang on just a second. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
We've got, and by the way, everyone, we've got another guest who's talking about how to do sold out events on LinkedIn using LinkedIn events. So this will be kind of cool so that we all know, how to get into events if you don't know already. And where.
Right. Well, that's great. So when LinkedIn first invented events or created it, it was for in-person events only. And then when COVID hit, when the pandemic hit, everybody was like, we're all doing these online events. You guys need to make it so that we can do virtual events. So the fact that you can now invite people to a virtual event is actually fairly recent.
Yeah.
So if you're on your LinkedIn page and you're on the home feed, over here on the sidebar, you can see it'll say events right down here.
Yep.
And so what you do is you just click the plus sign, and then you can create your event. You can put in these graphics. So you might want to create like a banner image. You can give it the name, and then you can put the link. So if you have like the StreamYard link, you could put the link in there.
Yes.
And then you can put in the little information, the time, and all of that, and have this create basically, it's like a little event landing page, basically.
Brilliant.
Once the event is set up, I can't show you right now because I'm only showing you the dummy, but once the event is set up and published, you go back into it and there will be a little blue button that says invite. And you click on that and you can invite, it'll show all of your LinkedIn connections, and then you can sort of hand pick who you'd like to invite. So if you know who some of those people are or your clients, and it's a topic that would be relevant and of interest to them, you can invite them directly and they'll get a notification saying that you're going live with this guest on whatever date. And I use it a lot, and it's much more targeted because it's not just going out into the LinkedIn stratosphere. It's like going to actual people that I think might be interested.
Yeah, love it.
And you don't want to overdo that either. It's not like if you decide to do a LinkedIn Live a week, don't invite the same people every week, because then they're just going to get annoyed.
Yes, makes sense.
So that's kind of how you can use events and get some really solid traction to get people to attend your live. And just remember this, which a lot of people know, is most people always watch the replay. You don't necessarily get as many people live as you do on the replay. So always remember that when you're doing your live. Always say, hey, glad you're here. And for those of you watching the replay, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, nice. So you've talked a bit about how to use your personal story nugget to build trust, and also a bit about events and how to use LinkedIn Live for those who want to create LinkedIn Lives. Being the LinkedIn Lead Generation Summit, how do you then move those people from people who have just discovered you and they're starting to know you, like you, and trust you? How do you then move those over into prospects and start kind of warming them up?
Okay. Well, part of that is that, first of all, like when you're watching the replay, so like if you do your LinkedIn Live, for example, at least for that part, go in and see who's interacting in the chat. Like people will say, oh, it's so-and-so from, Australia, or it's so-and-so from, California. Reach out to them, send them a personal message through LinkedIn and just say, hey, thank you for watching the interview I did, or thanks for watching the tip I gave, the video I did about the tip I gave on whatever. And can I answer any questions for you? This is the way you start a conversation. And so you're not pitching them anything. You're basically just being of service and asking if you can help. And then usually when people will come back, and then of course, hopefully that leads to more information. They want more information about what you do or whatever.
I love that. Really nice open question. If you've got any questions, it's just a really nice way, of coming across as someone who's there to serve rather than there to sell, which is
exactly, because we should always be coming up from that place of service versus selling. One thing you may have heard from a lot of people, and you're talking to a lot of LinkedIn experts, we all kind of say out there in our community, is that think of your LinkedIn profile as a resource and not a resume. It's your digital footprint, but it's not a cut and paste version of your hard copy resume or CV, just sort of, regurgitated on your LinkedIn. A lot of people do that because they think that's what they should do. So, just make sure, see yourself as a resource. As far as the story piece being incorporated into your profile, the strategy there is to help make your profile engaging, interesting, build that know, like, and trust, as you said. But, the nice thing about LinkedIn, though, is to use the LinkedIn messaging feature, which is really robust. It's like a secondary email for me. And a lot of people who don't necessarily pay as much attention to their email anymore definitely pay attention when they get a message through LinkedIn. So use the LinkedIn messaging piece to help build those relationships and ask if you can help, or take a conversation that's in the chat online, take it to a private conversation, through messaging, so that you can really start building a more personal dialogue there.
Yeah. So how long would you say you spend on LinkedIn, generating leads and getting back to people and all of that? Because I know that I love my messaging and I'm generally speaking to a number of people, but now that I'm ramping everything up, I'm kind of a bit concerned that I'm going to have tons of unread messages. It was my birthday recently, and I must have had about 300 or 400 people wish me happy birthday. I'm thinking about taking it off LinkedIn next year. So that can be a bit problematic. That's one of the only problems I see with LinkedIn messaging, because I also love it.
Right.
But how long do you spend per day or per week on messaging and on kind of lead generation on LinkedIn?
So since I've been doing this quite a while, I chunk it out. So I try to do, so one thing I love about LinkedIn is it's not like Twitter. Like, you don't have to do 10 posts a day. In fact, if you do, the LinkedIn algorithm will ding you, because less is more on LinkedIn. So when you post content, have it be really good, meaningful, robust content, So if I'm going to post some kind of a long form post on, let's say a Monday, maybe 11 in the morning Eastern. All right. I'm not going to post another thing on Tuesday that's long form, because if I do, my understanding is that the algorithm sees 2 posts back to back within 24 hours is almost like canceling each other out. So you don't want to compete with your own content or posts. That doesn't count account comments and shares. All of that stuff still happens as it should. So if you do an original piece of content on a Monday, I'll do another one on maybe Wednesday or Thursday. I might throw up some stuff, though, that is just maybe promotional for my upcoming LinkedIn Live. I might do that once a week. So I post about 3 to 5 times a week on LinkedIn. But I try to space it out so that I'm doing it at different times on different days. And I try not to spend more than 15 minutes a day. And now that's me, and this is my world. So some people could get away with a couple times a week, but if you want to be seen and heard and respected on LinkedIn, you need to be consistent, and the consistency is what matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure you've heard that from everybody.
Yeah, well, it's just one of those things with, I think, any social media platform, and just building trust. People want to be seeing you time and time again, not someone that's a fair weather friend who shows up for them and gives them some help and assistance, and then they're AWOL for a month, and then they pop back in, and then they're in your face all the time, and then they're gone somewhere. So I think it's just a really good thing for sales in general, is just to be consistent and business.
Absolutely. The consistency is key. And again, from the algorithm standpoint, granted, we're never ever going to know how the algorithm works on any channel. I mean, that's the secret sauce, right? But there's ways you can kind of, there's ways that a lot of us start to test things, and you can kind of see what's working. Some of us data wonks, can kind of figure out some things. So, but, I do a lot of reading, from LinkedIn. I mean, and I know I don't work for LinkedIn. I'm not a partner. I'm not an affiliate. I'm just an independent, professional. LinkedIn's my tool of choice. But I'm constantly reading. I'm constantly staying up on the changes. Just like any platform, it's always shifting.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned how to kind of hook in, using some SEO keywords as well. I'd love to ask you about that.
Okay, great. So I'm sure everybody's heard about search engine optimization, also, SEO. And that's basically keywords. And you probably all hear about this all the time, is that you need to know your keywords. So a lot of people go, well, where do I start? I have no idea. So a lot of times your keywords are actually like your skills, or your keywords are actually like the things that you do in your industry, and those happen to be keywords. So a great way to figure out what the keywords are, and they need to be the keywords for you in your industry. It's not like you're just pulling them out of the air. Go into LinkedIn search and search for people who do the kind of work you do. So if you are in project management, look for people who are project managers who have, project management certification kind of things, and see how they talk about themselves. See the kind of language they're using and see the kind of words they're using. There's two great tools I use to do keyword research, and I basically create like this list that I stick on my wall, and so that I always know what my industry keywords are, and I make sure I use them in my blogs or my videos or in my posts, on my website. Those keywords can be used across all your channels. So Google has a free keyword planner. If you go into Google and you Google Keyword Planner, it will take you in there and walk you through what you have to do. Now, you do need to know, Google will ask you for a credit card. And you don't have to do it, because Google Keyword Planner is actually used for people who create Google ads. But you can use it as a keyword planner. So even though it may say you got to set a bid or put a credit card in, you can get around it and then test the keywords. So like for me, keywords for me is like, LinkedIn profile writer, LinkedIn coach, LinkedIn expert, which is actually, Vivica's. So anything that you think that people might type in to look for someone like you if they don't have your name.
Excellent.
And another great tool that you can test is a free tool. It's called keyword.io. It's not keyword.com. It's keyword.io. And you can put seed keywords in there and get all the variations on that keyword so that you can kind of pick the ones that are relevant to you. And then you'll want to make sure you use those keywords in your various channels and platforms.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you kind of sometimes find it, hard to pop those in when you may be talking about something else that you're finding interesting? I mean, I guess though in your about page, which is probably where the keywords are going to be picked up most. And I've also heard that too, the banner, the behind.
The headline. Yes.
Yeah, the headline, and also the banner apparently, which of course is a picture, but apparently LinkedIn, I heard some time ago that LinkedIn actually somehow sweeps that and picks up the keywords from that as well.
So I don't know. That would be great if it did. I mean, because nothing's clickable on the banner, but they could be seeing the words. I don't know.
I don't know how they would do that, but I heard a while ago that they have some sort of thing. I guess with they can read images and stuff.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but I've heard it. So
yeah,
that apparently is a good place to pop some keywords. So in your story and so on, so I guess if you're just choosing 3 or 5, you can just kind of pepper your story with them.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you're basically, keywords are sort of naturally occurring. It's almost like when you write, like if you draft your about, and you're talking about what you do, and you go back and you look at it, you're going to be like, you're going to see what the phrase is, the 3 or 4 or 5 string of words that describe what it is you do. And oh, by the way, go test those out in keyword.io and see what it shows you. And it's probably ranking in Google or Bing and the other search engines out there. And so you just want to so some of those things are going to naturally occur in your writing anyway. But if not, you want to make sure that you've tested them and you include them. So you want them in your headline, which is right underneath your name in the top. You want to sprinkle them throughout your about. You want to sprinkle them out throughout your descriptions in your experience. Even your titles in your experience are searchable. So you can use keywords in there versus just your job title. Because I can guarantee you, people are not searching for you by job title. They're not looking for the founder of Standing Out Online. You know what I mean? They're not looking for, they're looking for people through keywords, like the type of work you do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Think about when you go online and you're searching for an item you want to buy. You're not even sure what it's called. So you type in the description of the item, and then Google gives you all the results to kind of hone in on what it is that you're looking for. Yeah. So, kind of put yourself in the shoes of others of what they might be typing in to find you.
Yeah. Nice. So we've covered quite a lot here, Kate. Lots of really interesting things, which I think will be really helpful for a lot of our viewers. And you've got a free offer that you wanted to make available. Can you tell us what it is?
Yes. So it's my newly revised, updated ebook, which is about how to tell your personal story. So a lot of what I talked about here today, this goes in much deeper on how to do it. There's a couple really great exercises in the ebook that will help you to really kind of hone in on what your story is and what your super specific skill sets are that maybe you don't realize. So the ebook will really walk you through step by step, give you some ideas, and it'll also give you a couple of exercises that you can do to really kind of figure out what that looks like.
Excellent. That sounds great. Love it.
Yeah.
Kate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being on our summit. And anyone who wants to get in touch with Kate and ask her any questions, you certainly can. And I hope you've enjoyed this interview. And Kate, thanks again for being here.
Thank you for having me, Kate.
Thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next interview. Bye for now.